Hello and welcome to the Revolut Insider Podcast, where we explore Revolut's rocket ship from the inside out, one episode at a time. I'm your host, Alex Carril, and joining me today is Kateryna Bannikova, Lead Recruitment Manager. Hi, Kateryna.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks.
Thank you for coming into the Madrid office.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And thanks for this opportunity to talk and to tell a bit about my experience.
And I know some people call you Kate. Is it okay if I do?
Sure.
Okay, great. And Kate, when we got a chance to catch up, you have a really incredible story to share. One about facing adversity and really how one's life can change in an instant.
Absolutely.
It is June, which is Refugee Awareness Month, and you are a refugee yourself.
Yes, I am.
I'm really grateful to have you on the show and be able to hear your story and learn how you made it here to Revolut, where you are a lead recruitment manager.
Yeah, it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to tell you.
Can you tell me, what departments do you hire for?
So the recruitment works in a way where we hire for certain functions. I'm in charge of hiring for engineering as well as people function. Software engineers who we hire end up working for various departments such as crypto, retail, or fin crime, and everyone who we hire for people function end up working for talent department.
Well, I know that software engineers are really the heart of Revolut, right? Without them, there would be no application. So I would actually like to get some information about, what it takes to hire for the engineering department here at Revolut.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, let's go back. I know you were displaced by the ongoing war in Ukraine. Let's talk about that in three parts, if you will. What you were doing before in your career, the events leading up to and after the war began, and then how you found your footing again and starting at Revolut. Is that okay?
Sure. So before Revolut, I had quite a long career. I started my career working for large American cruise line companies.
Oh.
And I worked in the capacity of human resources director on board cruise ships.
Interesting.
One would not think that there is an HR function on board a cruise ship. However, there is one, and it's a pretty important part of functioning of a cruise vessel. For example, we do onboarding, training, promotions, performance reviews, any conflict resolutions, employee relations, compliance, adherence, and etc. So that's what an HR director on a cruise ship does.
How interesting. And are these long-term cruises or are they short cruises?
The cruises can be anywhere between 3 days to even 6 months if it's a world cruise around the globe. The contracts of the crew members who work on a cruise ship can be anywhere between 2 weeks up to 7 months. As an HR director, my contracts were 12 to 16 weeks long. It depended on the period or the cruise itinerary, etc. And then it would be followed by about 8 or 10 weeks of vacation.
Oh, nice.
And the main fun part of that job was that you get to travel the world, and that's how I managed to visit over 100 countries.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
I also didn't expect that there were HR directors on cruise ships, but I guess there needs to be.
Sure, because usually the size of the team of the crew members on board is anywhere between 1,500 to sometimes 3,000.
Wow. And is there any location that really stood out to you during your travels on board?
Yes, it's Hawaii.
Oh, yes.
That's my favorite place. And also Brazil.
Oh, interesting.
Sailing up the Amazon River was the most memorable experience about Brazil.
I have not been to Brazil yet. I have been to Hawaii, but not yet Brazil. So I think I will add it to my list now.
So after cruise ships, I decided to stay in Ukraine and work in my homeland. Ukraine is famous for software development talent and for various tech companies. So I found a job in that domain. So that was quite a shift from working in hospitality for cruise lines and then to move to a tech company. I worked in several tech companies. My last being a company that provided software engineering services in the capacity of the director of global talent acquisition. It was a great company to work for, but then the war began and it changed my life.
I can only imagine.
Also, there's an interesting part that I would like to mention is that I have a PhD in sociology. I wrote a thesis about organizational culture as an important element of human resources management. And for 7 years, even until now, I'm working part-time as a university professor for a Ukrainian university. I do that remotely now. I teach 2 courses in international HR management and organizational culture.
Incredible. So you've been a cruise line people officer and you've managed the global department for a tech company. You are a professor. You definitely know people. I think that's like the
I think
ultimate,
so.
yeah.
A little bit. There's always something to learn though.
I think that's important to stay open to what you can learn from other people, like from your students, even if they're younger. I think there's always something that you can learn from those around you.
A new perspective.
Definitely. And this takes us up to when the war started. You had mentioned, can you tell me what happened?
We were kind of aware that the war might begin. However, nobody really believed that it would happen. However, it did happen. So I almost didn't sleep that night. I did watch the news where it was told that the war might begin within 24 hours. So I woke up early morning from hearing the bomb blasts, and I basically started thinking what to do next. I did not own a car at that time, and it was really difficult to find train tickets or to find a vehicle to evacuate.
Where were you based?
I was based in Kiev. I'm lucky that I was living in the city center of Kiev because those who lived in the suburbs were less lucky than me and they got trapped and occupied by Russian forces.
Oh.
So in my case, I was lucky to be able to get away. A colleague of mine came to pick me up and she drove me and my son and herself out of Kiev that night. And we ended up at the Moldovan border on the morning of the 25th of February.
2022?
2022, yes. The war started on the 24th. We managed to drive out in the evening and we ended up at the border in the morning of the 25th. And then basically I crossed the border and colleagues and friends helped me throughout the way. And I came to Sofia, Bulgaria, where I stayed for a couple of weeks. Then I moved to Spain, where I stayed for some time. And then I decided that time came for me to settle in a new place. And I decided to move to the UK.
And that's where you are now?
And that's where I'm based now, right. I live in Liverpool, England.
How has it been for you since you've been living in Liverpool?
There were ups and downs. Now we're used to it. It's a wonderful city. We had a warm welcome from an ex-colleague of mine, somebody who I worked with on cruise ships in 2005. We stayed at his place for about 6 months until I got a job at Revolut and was able to rent an apartment of my own. Not many people know this, but in the UK, it's not really possible to rent a place unless you have an income to show.
I imagine, yes.
And when I decided to move to the UK, I had to leave my job because it was not based in the UK. So I left my job. I came to the UK for another job at a startup. However, it was the end of 2022. A lot of tech companies were doing layoffs and the startup decided to part ways with me on my day 4 working for them. And then it took me several months to find the job that I have right now at Revolut.
I'm glad you found your way here.
I think that I found a new meaning in life. I had to.
Yeah.
I had to move forward. My son likes it in the UK. He is in a wonderful school. I work for Revolut, which gave me opportunities to learn and grow and still gives me opportunities to learn and grow every day. I keep donating to Ukrainian refugee funds, and working at Revolut gives me financial stability and ability to do so.
And how did you find your way to Revolut?
So at first, I started looking for a job through traditional ways. That is, responding to job vacancies and applying online. However, I found it to be a bit difficult due to the fact that a lot of companies required the UK experience, which I didn't have. That's why I wasn't successful at first. And then I decided a different approach, which is through networking. I'm a firm believer in social capital being one of the most powerful assets that one can have. So what I did, I went through my network and saw if anyone can refer me to a vacancy in the company that they work for. And that's what basically happened. Someone at Revolut referred me to one of the vacancies, and I was successful. Our interviewing process is extensive and thorough, and it includes several steps, and I was able to clear all the steps and get to the job offer.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what was your experience during that time starting at Revolut?
I joined as a people partner in the talent department, and it was great. We have a very experienced and intelligent team. And the first thing that stood out for me is how many smart people from various countries and from diverse background we have in our department. So I was able to quickly learn through them and work together with them to achieve their goals and mine. And then after several months, there was an opening in the recruitment department. And since I had extensive experience in recruiting, I decided to apply internally. And then again, I was able to clear the interviewing process and I made it to the end. And that's how I moved from being a people partner to being a lead recruitment manager.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And that feels great too. However, it's not only about being a manager for me, it's more about working as a team. And I was blessed to have great teams. And sometimes they teach me more than I teach them.
It's that synergy, right? That back and forth and working together.
I believe a lot in diversity, and I feel that's one of the greatest things that we have at Revolut, that I get to work with people from across the globe. And of course, it's great that we all get to work together and share our experiences and views and perspectives and ideas.
Definitely. And you also mentioned that you were a mom. Did the fact that you could work remotely at Revolut play a role in deciding to work here?
Yes, that was a great aspect of working at Revolut, because for a lot of vacancies that I applied for, they required office presence. However, since now it's only me and my son, and my family ended up in other countries due to various reasons, they didn't come to the UK. They went to other countries such as Spain, Bulgaria, and the United States. So it's only me and my son. And I really wanted to be able to bring him to school and to pick him up from school. He was 9 when the war started. He's 11 now. And that's why working remote and having flexible schedule allows me to be able to do that, which is not a big thing. However, it's very important for me to be there for him when he goes to school and he comes back from school.
It's great that you have that opportunity and that chance to spend time with him. How do you think your experience as a refugee shaped your perspective on life and work?
That's an interesting question. Probably the first thing that I would want to mention, and I probably already mentioned, is your social capital. Any connections that you have, your friends, your colleagues, are your strongest asset, because they're the ones who can give you advice, give you support, give you a couch to sleep on if you need to. So the importance of friends and family and acquaintances is something that stood out for me. The second thing is probably that all the things in life that are worth fighting for are not material, and freedom and safety are something that we take sometimes for granted. And that's what I learned as well.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for individuals who may have been through a life-changing event as you have and are looking for a job or maybe to advance in their career?
So my advice to anyone who has the same experience as me is that you have to give yourself time to process. There is no timeline which you have to keep to move through various stages of grief and then getting to live a new life. So my advice is don't rush into things. Give yourself time to process what happened and then come up with a plan. Rely on your friends. Ask someone from the country where you moved to look at your CV with a fresh eye to update your experience and to shape it in a way which will be applicable to the local market. And then keep learning new skills. You never know which skills will be useful in the new workplace. So always upgrading your experience and learning new things is going to pay out in the end.
True, yeah. And rely on that social capital.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to ask you, Kate, about hiring for the engineering department at Revolut.
Sure.
We'll be right back with more Insider Views. Did you know you can use your Revolut app to make a charitable donation? Choose from a huge selection of charities and effortlessly donate money with a tap. Charities get 100% of your donation, so you can feel good knowing that your whole contribution goes straight to the cause you care about. Do some good with Revolut. We're back on the Revolut Insider Podcast with Kateryna Bannikova, lead recruitment manager here at Revolut. How's it going, Kate?
All good.
Before the break, you had shared how you came to work at Revolut after having to leave your country. What I especially admire is your story is about tenacity and hope and finding your next steps, not giving up, and starting a new life for yourself, that never settle spirit. And now you're the one, in a way, giving people a new start by being a recruiter at Revolut. Can you tell me a bit about how it is to be a recruiter here and maybe a highlight that you've had during your time with the company?
Sure. Being a recruiter at Revolut is an interesting but challenging task, which goes in line with our never settle and think deeper values. We get to hire for various roles across various departments. And what we try to do is to find a culture match. Yeah. At Revolut, we are proud of our culture. And that's why probably the biggest highlight is when that match happens and we find the talent that is the right talent for our vacancy. But at the same time, when our company and the vacancy is also the right match for a candidate and then our future colleague. And another highlight that I would like to mention is that when I joined, we decided to start the relocation program. What it means is that eligible software engineers and data scientists can now apply for our positions from any country where they are currently located and get relocation support from us and relocate together with us to either Poland, Portugal, or Spain. We were not relocating extensively. However, we decided that we would like to give a chance to the bright and experienced talent across the globe to join Revolut and work alongside other talented and bright individuals in one of our core locations.
That's incredible. So you're the one that is responsible for this great initiative.
That was not only my idea. However, yes, I'm glad that happened. It was teamwork with our employer branding team, our global mobility team, our people partners, as well as recruiters.
It's a terrific program. And like you said, you can find the best culture match in the best candidate with the best talent and offer them a chance to move somewhere else. It's
exactly.
Interesting.
And that allowed us to tap into the untapped talent that is currently located outside of those countries where we're present or even outside of Europe. And then relocate and get support from us, visa support, as well as relocation support. We're currently looking for a middle to lead level software engineer and senior data scientist that can benefit from our relocation program. This usually requires a minimum of 5 years of production experience on average, but the results of the technical interviews will determine the final seniority. Whether you're a seasoned professional or a rising star in the tech world, we have opportunities for you to grow, learn, and excel. So feel free to discover all eligible positions you can apply for on our website and help us redefine fintech.
Great. And I imagine that must give us an advantage, tapping into that untapped market that you mentioned. How do you navigate the challenges of recruiting engineers in a competitive market? Because it seems like since the world has turned digital, everyone is trying to hire engineers.
Absolutely. Everyone is trying to hire engineers. However, not everyone is the best of the best,
True,
like us.
Yeah.
We usually attract like-minded individuals who get excited about what we're building and who also get excited by our culture. So I think that our product speaks for itself, and software engineers usually are not only software engineers, any individuals are most motivated and driven by accomplishment and by their input that they can make into something that impacts other people's lives.
Yeah.
So working for Revolut can give this opportunity to a successful applicant.
Definitely. Something I really appreciate about Revolut is that there's a chance to grow with the company.
Yes, we conduct employee engagement surveys, and career growth is usually one of the top things that are mentioned by our employees as things that Revolut does better than others.
And going back to these potential engineering candidates, what qualities or skills do you look for during the recruitment process?
As we hire from mid-level and above, the first thing would be production experience. The number of years depends on your seniority. But the qualities that we look for across the board, across all our vacancies, are fluency in English, of course, ability to work in a team, but also independently, great communication and organizational skills, as well as we're looking for quick learners with results-driven approach, and people who are able to adapt quickly and think outside of the box and develop great solutions, simple solutions to complex problems.
I'll include a link in the podcast description too, for those who might want to apply. Okay, I have to ask, Kate, Revolut has a bit of a reputation of having an extensive interview process, and we talked about it earlier, these different steps, but each of them have their purpose. Can you tell me about the hiring process that goes into the engineering department?
Sure, there are several steps in this process. The first being the CV screening stage. Then after that is the interview with one of our tech recruiters, followed by live coding, technical conversation, and system design stages. So anyone who is able to clear all the stages and get to the end is invited to an interview with the representatives of a project or a department where the vacancy is open, so that they can hear more about what they would be doing if they were to accept our offer. And that last step is called the team fit interview.
Oh, and how can a candidate prepare themselves for each of these stages?
Usually, once you have a screen call, an initial interview with our technical recruiter, a technical recruiter would be the one to prepare a candidate for the next stage, as well as to provide the feedback after each stage. So your recruiter would be the best person to give you all the details and to prepare you for each of our interview steps.
So you have someone along this recruitment process that's helping you out at each stage?
Absolutely, yes. We also have the position of recruitment coordinator in our company. So recruitment coordinators are the one who assist in finding the best time slot that fits your schedule.
And let's talk about the tech conversation and system design challenge interviews, because those are quite specific to engineering and the recruitment process. What are some tips for excelling during these specific interviews?
So during technical interviews, we evaluate the ability to build an application and deliver production-ready code. And what we analyze is code fluency, code simplicity, and the general mindset of a candidate, capacity to accept challenges and to try different approaches. And for system design challenges, the goal is to evaluate the system design principles. And what we usually look at is the capacity of the candidate to gather and analyze requirements. We look at the way they communicate, identify failure scenarios, as well as the general decision-making process and the capacity to problem solve and to think critically.
Each of these steps are so important to try to find the best person and make sure that they're the right fit for this role, but it's a lot.
Precisely.
Like I'd mentioned, these are crucial parts to determine problem solving and people's ability to think creatively. And also, I think that what a lot of people don't understand is that it's not a one-sided approach, our interview process. It's a dynamic conversation. There is the ability to ask questions and to work with the interviewer during these stages. So you're not alone. You have someone there that you can also rely on or to ask questions if you need to.
Communication skills are really important, and that's something that we evaluate as well.
And at the beginning of the episode, you had mentioned the difficulty kind of that lies when you apply for a job because so many people might apply for the same role. Of course, activating your network is great advice, but do you have any tips on how I can improve my resume to make it stand out among a sea of others, let's say?
Sure. My recommendations for resume writing would be making it short and concise and to the point. It should not mention any information that is not relevant to the position that you're applying for. It should highlight all your skills, but also projects that you participated in or that you led. And the main thing is the impact that you made at your previous workplaces.
I like that. I like kind of the approach of showing your impact and not so much of just the day-to-day responsibilities, because I feel like in most of the jobs you're applying to, it'll have the similar day-to-day responsibilities, right? But what have you done? What are your achievements? How can you show that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Achievements and results that you have to show definitely should be on your CV, because the first stage in any recruitment process is CV screening. So if you have great achievements, but you have not made them clear and visible on your CV can be overlooked and preference can be given to other candidates with a CV that has more details about the achievements and impact they have made.
That makes sense. Going back to the relocation aspect, as someone like yourself who has had to start from scratch, let's say, and I obviously know your experience is different from others who choose to move, but what would you say to those who are thinking about starting in a new environment?
It's all about being open to the unknown and being able to overcome your fear and go for what you want. And I think that even if you feel reluctant and hesitant, you should remember, why do you want to move? What is the goal that you're pursuing? And you need to keep your eyes on the prize, and you should never settle and just go for it. Yes, you might cry and you might want to go back home many times. You have to be positive and keep thinking about a brighter future that you're pursuing, following your dreams.
Great advice. Thank you for that. And we're almost out of time here, but I do want to ask you, since we're in June, what does Refugee Awareness Month mean to you, Kate?
Last time I Googled, there are over 100 million refugees living across the world. So for me, the month of June is the month of awareness of the strength and the perseverance of these 100 plus million of refugees living across the globe. And I think it's an important aspect for everybody to think about and to remember.
You know, I think not only June, but having people like yourself share your stories brings that awareness to more people around the world. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alex, for listening. And I'm glad that I'm here, able to share my story. And thanks a lot to Revolut for giving the chance to me to continue my career. But not only me, also dozens of others who are refugees like me.
And speaking of career, I just have one final question for you. What advice would you give to yourself when you were just starting out in your career?
My advice would be to be confident. You know what you're doing. Just do what you think is right and do not doubt yourself and do not second guess yourself. That's the advice that I keep giving myself even now.
I love that. Yeah, just remembering that you can do it, that you're here
Absolutely.
And you know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, for being on the show and sharing your deeply personal story with us and for all of our listeners. So I do really appreciate you and your time. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Thank you.
And for those who are listening, add Revolut Insider Podcast to your favorites so you don't miss an episode. And you can follow us on Instagram at Revolut Insider. Thanks for tuning in to the Revolut Insider Podcast, where we explore Revolut's rocket ship from the inside out. Until next time, remember, the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning. Revolut. Change the way you money.